Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are sailing straight into, well, probably the biggest geopolitical story of our time, the battle for the seas between China and America. And this whole contest, it's really symbolized by one massive new piece of hardware, China's newest aircraft carrier, the Fujian. Our mission today is to really unpack this. We're going to get into the history here, the incredible technology that they've just put in the water, and what it all means strategically, because this isn't just about ships and missiles.
No, it's not. And that's the crucial thing to understand right from the start. This isn't just a military rivalry. It's a contest for control of the global economy.
The circulatory side.
Exactly. I mean, history shows us whoever controls the seas controls trade. And today that means controlling the oil, the goods, everything. We're talking about choke points like the Malacca Strait. That's the real game here.
Okay, so let's unpack this. To really get a sense of how fast this has all happened, we have to go back in time. Let's start in 1949. China is unified under the Communist Party, but the country is? I mean, it's just destroyed, it's poor. Naval power isn't even on the radar.
Not at all. Their focus was entirely inward. Building a state, building an industrial base, just surviving. The Navy, the plan, was basically just a coastal defense force, little green boats hugging the coastline.
But then something shifts.
A massive shift. In the 1980s, as China opens up its economy, it suddenly becomes dependent on global trade. They're importing huge amounts of oil, exporting everything else, and the leadership has this strategic awakening.
They realize they're vulnerable.
Completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
Their entire economic miracle is floating on sea lanes that they don't control. And that's when they decide, if we want to be a real great power, we can't just be a land power. We have to go to sea.
And that's the start of this journey.
That's the beginning. And when they start, they are looking out at an ocean that is, for all intents and purposes, an American lake.
Right. After World War II, the U.S. Navy and Air Force, they really do treat the world's oceans like their own property. They can go anywhere, do anything.
And the centerpiece of that entire strategy, their magical weapon, is the aircraft carrier.
Explain that for us. Why is it a magical weapon?
I mean, think about it. It's a moving military city. It's a 100,000-ton sovereign piece of territory that can park itself off any coastline in the world. It's not just jets. It's missiles, radars, thousands of soldiers, an entire battle group protecting it.
It's power projection.
It is the ultimate expression of power projection, and the U.S. has had this unmatched advantage for 70 years. Today, they still operate 11 of these massive nuclear-powered supercarriers. That's the benchmark.
Okay, but that number, 11, is it really 11 ready to go at any one time?
That's a great point, and no, it's not. The reality is with maintenance, with refits, with crew rotations, at any given moment, you might have 6, maybe 7 that are truly deployable.
So the effective gap is a little smaller.
A little smaller. But the U.S. still has this enormous advantage and experience. I mean, decades of it. But China had to start somewhere.
Which brings us to their first steps. And they were, frankly, baby steps. In 2012, they launched their first carrier, the Liaoning.
And you have to remember the story there. That wasn't a new ship. It was the rusted-out hull of an old Soviet carrier they bought from Ukraine and completely rebuilt.
So it's old, it's small.
And it has a major technological limitation. And this is really important for understanding why the Fujian is such a big deal. Both the Liaoning and their second carrier, the Shandong, they use what's called a ski jump ramp.
Stow bar. You see in the videos, the plane goes up a ramp at the end of the deck.
Wait, short takeoff, but arrested recovery. The problem with the ski jump is that the plane is taking off purely on its own engine power.
Which means?
It means it can't be carrying a full load of fuel or a full load of heavy weapons. It severely limits its range, its combat power. It was great for training, for teaching a Navy how to do carrier ops, but it wasn't a real challenge to a world power.
So the gap was still huge back then. The U.S. has 11 nuclear supercarriers with a superior system.
Kato bar, catapult-assisted
Yes.
takeoff.
And China has 2 limited ski jump carriers.
Right. But the key thing here, the big takeaway, is that China doesn't mind starting small. They are incredibly fast learners.
And that learning curve leads us directly to Tuming 22. And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. They launch the Fujian, the Type 003.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not another starter carrier. Military analysts look at this thing and immediately say, okay, this is it. This is the first real challenge to American naval dominance.
Because the Fujian is a true Kato bar carrier, it has catapults. That means it can launch fully loaded jets with maximum fuel. It instantly puts it in a whole different league.
And it's not just that it has catapults. It's the type of catapult they used that shocked everyone.
Exactly. This is the detail that signals something big is happening. They didn't use the old steam catapults that U.S. carriers have used for decades. They went straight to electromagnetic catapults.
Emails.
EMILs. Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. Think of it like a maglev train for jets. It's smoother, more efficient, puts less stress on the aircraft, and it can be calibrated for different weights.
And the crazy part is, the U.S. Navy is still struggling to get EMILs working reliably on its newest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford.
Right. The fact that China got it working seemingly well on their third carrier ever? That is an incredible technological leap. It shows how fast they're moving.
So what is this system, this EMILs, what does it actually allow the Fujian to do?
Well, first, it lets them launch a much wider range of aircraft, heavier surveillance planes, electronic warfare jets, and crucially, drones. But the single most important thing it changes is something called the sortie rate.
The sortie rate. Explain that.
It's simple. It's the number of planes you can get off the deck in a given amount of time. In a real fight, that rate is everything. It's what lets you gain and keep control of the air.
So a ski jump carrier is slow.
Very slow. Maybe 20 planes an hour, struggling. The Fujian, with EMALs, is expected to operate much closer to the U.S. benchmark. We're talking maybe 40, 50 planes an hour. That fundamentally alters the balance of power.
Especially in the specific area they're focused on, which is the first island chain.
Exactly. That chain of islands, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, has historically been used by the U.S. and its allies to sort of bottle China up.
A strategic barrier.
A barrier. For China to become a true global navy, a blue water navy, they have to be able to push past that chain. The Fujian is the tool that's designed to let them do that. And that makes America very, very nervous.
So let's broaden this out a bit.
Yeah.
Because the Fujian is incredibly impressive, but it's not just one ship. America is worried because it's the product of all these converging strengths China has.
Right. It's the tip of the spear.
It's the rising economy, it's the massive manufacturing base, the tech growth, and a navy that is it's expanding every single year.
Yeah.
Faster than anyone else.
And what's so fascinating here is the core difference. China builds things at scale. For decades, U.S. intelligence was sort of waiting for the Chinese system to collapse. Instead, it's demonstrating this incredible state-directed power to build.
And it's all tied to their main political project.
Taiwan. Absolutely. This naval buildup is fundamentally about creating a military that can ensure Taiwan cannot declare independence and can, if Beijing chooses, be brought back under its control.
So looking ahead, analysts see a couple of different paths this could take. The most alarming one is what they call the clash scenario.
And that scenario depends entirely on one thing. How fast can China build more Fujian-class carriers?
And their shipyards are capable.
Oh, more than capable. If they can get 3 or 4 of these ships into the water, the balance of power in the Western Pacific, it flips.
And what could that look like?
Well, imagine a scenario where they don't even invade Taiwan directly. They just use their carriers to enforce a blockade, choke it off. That would force the U.S. into an impossible choice. Intervene and risk a massive war, or back down and lose credibility everywhere.
Which pulls in Japan, Australia, everyone in the region.
Instantly. But there is another way to look at this, a different philosophy.
The idea that China isn't building this fleet for a direct fight.
Right. This connects to their broader strategic culture, often summarized as win without fighting. The American way has been to use carriers for direct intervention. Bombing campaigns in Iraq, Libya, Vietnam.
Using them as a hammer.
As a hammer. China's view, at least as they state it, is different. The Navy is a shield. It's there to protect their trade routes, their lifelines. It's to build such an overwhelming presence that rivals are deterred from ever challenging them in the first place.
So the buildup is the weapon, deterrence through sheer numbers and quality.
Exactly. You achieve your goals because no one dares to stop you.
Now, to be fair, America still has some huge advantages here. We're talking about a massive economy, decades of military experience, superior tech in certain areas like sensors and AI?
Submarines, sensors, network integration, absolutely, and a global network of bases that China can only dream of.
But, and this is the big but, this raises the really tough question.
Yeah.
Can the U.S. actually sustain this competition?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. Because for all its strengths, America is dealing with some pretty serious structural problems. Political division, massive debt, and the most critical one for this conversation, A shrinking industrial base.
The industrial base. This is what all the analysts keep pointing to as the Achilles heel.
It's the core of the problem. America simply cannot build ships, drones, and missiles as fast or as cheaply as China can anymore.
Give us the hard numbers on that.
A U.S. destroyer might take 5-6 years to build and cost billions. China can build a similar ship in half the time for a fraction of the cost because they control the entire supply chain. The data shows China is building more warships in a few years than the U.S. builds in an entire decade.
So it's not a military gap anymore, it's an industrial gap.
It's an industrial divergence, and it affects everything. It's not just about building new carriers, it's about repairing the ones you have. It's about restocking your missiles after a conflict.
So you have one system that's hobbled by politics and budget fights.
Years of debate just to approve one new ship program.
Against a state-directed system that can just decide to build a fleet and then do it. The Fujian is really just the most visible sign of that deeper problem.
Precisely. It's the symptom of that underlying industrial advantage.
So what does this all mean for you, for the listener? It means that with the Fujian in the water, and with China's Navy growing every day, we've entered a new era. The whole idea of an American century on the oceans, that's over.
It's over. We are now in a century of two giants. Two superpowers competing on the seas, over trade, over technology, over everything. The era of single-power dominance is likely gone.
So the final thought, the provocative question we have to leave everyone with,
is how does the world actually work when two superpowers share the same sea? How stable is our global economy when both sides can threaten to close off those critical choke points to the other?
that shared future and all the tension that comes with it.
Yeah.
That's the real deep dive. This is a story that's moving, as you said, faster and deeper than most people, even the experts, really expect.